I was there the day the humans laughed at an ultimatum that made entire empires tremble. My name is Rolvan, Tactical Officer of the Thryn Coalition, and I had the misfortune and the honor of standing beside Commander Hale when the Varkuun Armada demanded our surrender. It all happened in the shattered remains of Outpost Zephyr 9. Smoke drifted through the corridors like lost ghosts. The lights flickered, casting long, dancing shadows, and every single species present understood the same terrifying truth. We were outnumbered, outgunned, and just seconds away from complete annihilation. Then, the Varkuun hailed us. Their commander appeared on the damaged holoscreen, a towering figure, armored in jagged obsidian plates, with eyes that glowed like dying suns. His voice boomed through the speakers, dripping with malice. Surrender your station, lay down all arms, and your deaths will be swift. Resist, and we will erase your lineage for 1,000 cycles. A wave of cold dread washed over us. Most of us froze. I saw the bravest soldiers among the coalition tremble, their scales or fur bristling with fear. The Varkuun did not bluff. They were a species that conquered through pure fear and unimaginable cruelty, leaving nothing but ash and sorrow in their wake. It wasn't a nervous laugh, or even a defiant one. He reached down, casually ejected the spent magazine from his rifle, and slapped in a fresh one with a satisfying click. He muttered, almost to himself, Yeah, put it on the pile of threats we've heard today. The entire room just stared at him. I leaned in, my voice a desperate whisper. Commander, they have 12 war barges, 3 dreadnoughts. And Hale said, pulling back the charging handle of his rifle with a sharp, metallic snap. The sound echoed in the sudden silence. We've got walls, we've got ammo, and we've got a reason to win. Besides, he slung the rifle over his shoulder and gave the holoscreen a lazy, almost dismissive salute. Humans don't do surrender, the Varkuun commander hissed, his face a mask of rage. Your bravery is meaningless. You are cornered rodents. Hale's lips curled into a grin. Funny, he said, his voice dangerously light, because last time someone cornered a human, they discovered we bite. And with that, he cut the transmission, leaving the Varkuun leader sputtering in silence. We all expected panic to erupt. Instead, Hale clapped his hands together, the sound sharp and commanding. All right, folks, let's give these overgrown space lizards a welcoming party they won't forget. Rolvan, give me a status on the defense grids. I scrambled back to my console, his confidence a sudden spark in the darkness. Half operational, sir. Automated turrets are running hot. If they breach the hull, they won't, Hale said, his voice ringing with absolute certainty. Humans hold the line. That's what we do. And somehow in that moment of certain doom, we all believed him. Minutes later, the siege began. The first Varkuun dropships punched through the outer atmosphere, and the station shook with the force of the bombardment. Alarms wailed a symphony of chaos. Panels burst in showers of sparks, raining down on us. My own claws trembled on the controls as I tried to reroute power. But the humans, they moved like this was their natural environment: chaos, fire, and impossible odds. It was like a dance to them. Private Diaz sprinted past me, carrying 3 heavy crates of ammunition as if they weighed nothing at all. Sergeant Una calmly recalibrated a malfunctioning turret while blaster fire rained down all around her, scorching the metal just inches from her face. Even the wounded humans, those who should have been in medbay, limped into defensive positions, refusing to be left behind, their jaws set with determination. I found myself muttering aloud, lost in awe. Why do humans fight so hard? Hale, who was laying down suppressive fire down a corridor, must have overheard me. He didn't even turn his head as he replied, because someone has to. And because losing would mean having to explain it to our ancestors. Not happening. The first Varkuun breach team arrived in a violent explosion of shrapnel and smoke. They stormed the corridor in a tight, disciplined formation, roaring their guttural war cries, weapons blazing. The humans didn't flinch. They laughed. Diaz shouted from behind his cover, "Round 2. Who's keeping score?" Una yelled back from her turret emplacement. We stopped counting after 30. Blaster fire tore the air apart. It was a terrifying, beautiful storm of light and sound. The humans leaned out from cover, fired with a terrifying, almost casual accuracy, then ducked back just an instant before counterfire scorched the walls where their heads had been. They weren't fearless. I could see the sweat, the tension in their shoulders, but they were alive in battle in a way no species I'd ever seen could match. They thrived in it. Every time a weapon overheated, a human was there, reloading. Every time a defensive barrier fell, a human was there, rebuilding it under fire. Every single time the Varkuun pushed forward, a human pushed back harder. It was a relentless, unstoppable tide of pure defiance. Then, after hours of brutal non-stop fighting, the Varkuun unexpectedly halted their assault. The station fell into an eerie, ringing silence, broken only by the crackle of fires and the groans of stressed metal. Hale raised an eyebrow, a thoughtful look on his face. Well, either they're out of troops or they've finally learned to be afraid. As if on cue, the holoscreen flickered back to life. The Varkuun commander was there again, but this time, he looked shaken. His obsidian armor was scuffed, and his glowing eyes seemed dimmer. "Your losses should have broken you," he snarled, but the bite was gone from his voice. "Why do you persist?" Hale just smirked. "Because surrender isn't in our vocabulary." He lifted his rifle again, holding it loosely. "And because you made a mistake." The Varkuun's confusion was plain. "What mistake?" Hale stepped forward, his eyes turning cold as ice, his voice dropping to a low, steady tone that sent a shiver down my spine. "You cornered humans. At that exact moment, every turret, every drone, and every defensive cannon we'd managed to repair hummed to life at once. The entire station vibrated with a new, lethal energy." Hale's grin widened into a predatory smile. "Rounds on us." He gave the order, and the station unleashed absolute hell. It was a storm of plasma, lasers, and missiles. A concentrated fury we had painstakingly gathered while the Varkuun wasted their soldiers. Within minutes, what was left of the Varkuun fleet was in full retreat, leaving behind the burning wreckage of their pride and a victory that, by all logic, should have been impossible. When the smoke finally cleared and the silence returned, I turned to Hale, my mind still reeling. "You laughed in the face of a fleet that has toppled empires," I said, my voice filled with awe. "Why?" He shrugged, wiping a smear of grime from his cheek. "Fear wastes time. Reloading doesn't." It was then that I finally understood. I understood why the rest of the galaxy feared humans, and why the rest of us were willing to follow them into the fire. Because when everyone else surrenders, humans just reload. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales from the edge of the galaxy. See you next time.